Okay, everyone, welcome to 2025 Playground to Premiership podcast. This is our 6th edition. We'd like to welcome James Morrison, West Brom legend, Scotland international, Middlesbrough. You are our most decorated player, I think, to join us on the podcast, Moz. So, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Obviously, I don't know if you've watched through any of the others, but a little bit different to some podcasts. What we're trying to do here, and you see it in the name, Moz, is we're trying to look at it as we turn round. You can see kids start with ACE from 4 years of age and try and map that journey to hopefully give a little bit of advice for players and parents and give them a grounding on what it looks like in the eyes of someone who's done it. So you are someone who's played from the playground and gone all the way to the Premiership. And I think what it shows so far, we've had like Jimmy Walker, who's played in the Premiership, Stephen Cook. We've had people like Mick, who's had an award from the Premiership for services to youth, Adi Vivash, Nathan Cantrell, who's head of Forest, is how diverse that pathway can be and different for people. And hopefully then people like you can give a little bit of advice for people along the way. So if we take it all the way back, which we always do, take us back to James Morrison. Is it Middlesbrough where you grew up and was born?
Darlington. I was at Darlington born, yeah.
So not too far.
Yeah.
When did your love of football, Moz, become apparent? When did you start?
Well, it started through, obviously father played. He played at a good level. My dad's brother took me quite a lot on a Saturday to watch him and be around the men's game, and then I went to a Saturday team, called 21st All Stars. Played there for a couple of years, and then that's when Middlesbrough came and scouted me. So, and then I went on a trial and signed for them, but also played for the county school teams.
So when you say I asked you off camera, but I always say it with ACE, and it can be obvious for some, and for others they can develop further. You said your dad was decent. Did you say he was a Chelsea scholar?
Yeah,
what would be a scholar now?
Yeah, Premiership,
and your uncle was a decent level.
Yeah. I'm a granddad as well, yeah.
Right, so was it quite, as soon as you started playing football, were you good?
Yeah. My mum said it straight away, I was going to be a professional footballer and stuff like that. So you have that sort of inner belief, really, that what you got to have as a young player. And school got put to the background, and I just, in my head, I was going to think about was making it and being a professional footballer.
And if we talk about the early days, because I always look at nature versus nurture, what I would call it, is obviously you said you might have that genetic trait and you've got that environment of family of being good, but did your dad push you hard? Did your uncle push you hard?
Not so my uncle, but my dad was he was an aggressive player. There was a couple of times watching him and he was nearly getting sent off all the time. So I had that, him pushing us. We always used to argue on the sideline. I'll be telling him to shut up now. And you look at Max now and he tells me exactly the same. So I tend to back off Max a little bit because I know what it was like. But yeah, my dad would always be shouting on the sideline and I didn't like it. So, but I had that inner belief and determination of, every training session or match I'll be pushing and pushing and pushing.
It's interesting, that can go in loads of different directions. Like when I was a kid, my dad, I wouldn't say he was over talking to me, but he'd let me know at certain points on the side how I'd done. And then there was other people who you could say that their parents would be overbearing. But I remember seeing a thing with Carl Walker recently on a different podcast, and he said even though his dad probably went too far and drove him really hard, at certain points it got him further. Do you think that helped you or hindered you?
Yeah, I think it's all about the balance, isn't it? And pushing in at the right times and the right conversations. I do think kids need pushing and telling. But like I say, it's that balance of when to push, when to ease off, and when to say that they're wrong. And ultimately, sometimes you need a well done. That's the biggest compliment you can get when your dad's saying you've done well.
And did you get them? Was it equal balance?
Yeah, it was equal balance, but most of the time it was the opposite.
And when you see it now, like obviously you've just mentioned, obviously your lad who's in the same class as mine, Max plays with us. You do see some parents, if we just go down that little pathway for a minute, that will be like coaching the kid. And sometimes I know a lot of the grassroots coaches, whether it be Ace or other people in the league, they are willing volunteers. But sometimes some of the parents can be saying what's contradictory to what the coach is trying to give us information.
Yeah.
So it is a fine balance, isn't it?
I think it's you just get that invested in the game, and you want your son to do well. You know, I've done it myself on the sideline, shout at Max and you know, shout at him on the pitch and that. So you do get carried away, but you know, sometimes you've got to take a step back and realise that they're only 8 and they're doing this to enjoy football, not to get shouted at and not want to turn up the next week.
Well, I think that's key. I mean, I know the Sean Dyche one I always liked, where he said, like, you don't shout at a kid trying to learn to ride a bike.
Yeah.
So why do you shout at him playing football? I think the key thing you've said, which is really good there, is you get invested in the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all want our child to do well, but it's a balance where I've seen it so much now through the years, and I might have said it before on the podcast, but you'll see some children that will get to the point where they're always looking for the parent, where they're looking to seek approval. And I think some parents think that's good, but I always say to them, if they're not just in the game and they're looking for you.
Ultimately, they've got to make decisions for themselves.
Of course they have. So. And I think, like you've said, it's going to have to be their journey.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, for someone like Max, you're his dad first and foremost, but you're someone who's played Premier League level. Yeah.
Max doesn't even like football really, but I'm not trying to push him. You know what I mean? I'm trying to let him find his way of falling in love with football and then help him that way if he does. But also, you know, bringing him to training, bringing him to games. You know, sometimes I take the sessions myself. The coach is not there, so just like little bits and trying to take him to matches on Saturday. But
do you know what you say? Obviously, I think like it's about giving kids opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think what is genuinely good, and I've said this, we've been quite lucky at Ace, not without name drops. We've had former players of good calibre who've brought their children here. And genuinely, I don't know if it comes from the grounding of going through elite level for a long time, but pretty much all of the ex-professional players who bring their children here have a very balanced view off the pitch. So whether that be watching sessions, opinions on it, you sometimes get, in the best will in the world, someone who might not have a great knowledge of it and gets overzealous, as in because their 6-year-old shows a little bit of promise, expecting X, Y and Z too much. Like you've just said, I always said that football at, say, Max's age, which is 8, under 9s, it's not just the football, it's sort of environment, getting to meet other children, social skills. Not because I coach Max on a Friday, say he doesn't like football, I think he can see it coming in him. But obviously, I think what's great is what you've said there is, and maybe I've learned as I've gone down the amount of children I've got. He's like, my expectations with, say, little Cooper, who I don't message it, and he's starting to really develop, I think. But I just want it to be his. Yeah. Where previously, let's say with Riley or Jude, I was probably too much in that journey. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they've also got to a good level, haven't they? So
they have, and I think this is quite interesting to say what you've said in terms of, like you've said about environments, you've said about uncle, dad, into you. I might be lucky, let's say, just talking about mine or Ace, that environment, they've got a 20-year-old brother who played a good level.
I've also got an older brother, so...
Okay, so how many years?
4, so 4 years different, so...
Did he play football?
He had a bash, so... And he played, like, school and Sunday, so obviously when we're in the garden... like playing 1v1, so you do. You know, I was up against it, and he's smashing balls, I'm tackling him, he's tackling me, and, you know, we always used to have holes in the fence, you know what I mean, because we were playing together. So, and again, if you're at academy now, and if you're any good, you always get bumped up in age group because it's more physical and it makes you, you know, think quicker. You got less time, you know, on the ball and stuff like that. So that's like a big brother, isn't it?
What's your birthday?
I'm 86. Yeah.
I'm
May, sorry.
May, so you're
Yeah.
quite a late one as well in terms of the year.
Yeah, and I was quite small as a kid as well.
So did you physically
So
struggle?
I was fast as a kid, really fast, till I got to about 14. I started growing, and I was hopeless till 13, 14, till like, you know, the all good slatters for growing and all that. Couldn't move and all that, but they stuck with me, and I was trying to play through, get frustrated, you know. And you got that worry of are you going to get a contract and all that. And then I got to like 15 and a half, and it was like, I can remember one of the coaches said to me, it's like your calipers have just come off. I could like free and run, and I just
Forrest Gump down there.
yeah, and I just started like playing up an age group, and then I was just away then.
So in terms of like, just to keep mapping that then, you played for like a grassroots team in Middlesbrough, I presume quite a decent level
Donaldson,
grassroots team, got into Middlesbrough Academy.
Yeah.
11. So when you, like, let's say, I presume you're one of the best kids in the league, or as a kid, when you went into academy, were you still one of the higher achievers?
Yeah, so you used to rotate it sometimes when they miss a game and all that, but I never missed a game, so like they were investing into me a bit from that age.
And then you went county level.
Yeah, you played county level, like, but once you got to a certain age with academy, you had to stop playing.
Yeah. What age? Because obviously I know you had 47 caps for Scotland, but as a youth you played for England, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what age did you get into the England squad?
That was under 17, so first year YTS, when you go full time. Yeah, I got picked up.
And who else would have been in that sort of squad? What sort of players are we talking
so
about?
Like Tom Huddleston, Luke Moore, Aaron Lennon, Grant Ledbetter, James Milner, Tom Heaton, the goalkeeper. So there was I can't really think off the top of my head, but they're the players who stand out.
And one thing we spoke off camera, I know obviously you're getting quite good at paddle, but some people just solely do football. There's big talk about dual sport being beneficial, and in your words you said, look, I'm Sport Billy, I loved all sports as a kid. Did you still have the time, and your mum and dad were invested to say, look, James, go and do, I think you said you did swimming,
I was
tennis?
just part of like school and stuff like that, and outside clubs like you do, like my kids do now. I was like tennis, swimming at school, out of school.
Where you won certain things, you got to a high level.
Yeah, golf. My dad was in, and all my family really. My grandparents, you know, were golf. So we used to go up there on the summers. You know, what else? Table tennis. I remember they came in at school, and then there was a club on a Friday. So you used to go to table tennis on a Friday.
So you know, with the Cat Ones, because at Middlesbrough would have been a Cat One academy, or
I don't think it came into when we were there.
how
all these
often
category
are they in
ones.
more now than when you were then to allow you to do all that? Because some of the, if at 13 years of age, some of the kids, whether it be at West Brom
Yeah,
now,
we were like now we're like this. It's just they're every day, aren't they? Some
Yeah.
some 4 times a week, and then a game. So
so it wasn't as much as that for you.
no, maybe twice. I can't really remember at the top of my head, but maybe twice a week, and then a games and stuff.
Do you think
like
the shift's gone too much then, or is that just the way football?
Yeah, well, sometimes less is more, isn't it? It's good, but
Because Mick is an example. Go on,
sorry. I always remember Dave Parnaby, our academy manager. You know, obviously he produced lots of players coming through Middlesbrough, but he always say if you look at when they're 9 to say 14 or something, they skip into training. But if you watch them when they're at full time, they walk really slow, like head down. So is that a balance of too much before they get to the big stage where they're not? It's just normal, isn't it? Or is it the other way?
I think
So
that's
if
a
they're
bit.
9 to
Yeah,
16, where 16 they should be. That's
skipping in.
skipping in. This is football. You just put in football for a living. It's the best time of your life, really. And like, if you look now where you played, you've still got best friends now.
Yeah.
You are the 16s when you went in.
Yeah.
And I've got the same now. My best mates are from youth team, really. So.
I think that's a brilliant point.
So what is it then? What's making them not skip in and be excited to training when they're 16, 17? And then on the flip side of that, so she's. I call her my auntie, but she's not my auntie. So she always used to look after me as a kid and stuff like that. And she texted me and said, "Oh, my son's he's doing well, but can you have a trial?" So I got him in at West Brom, and he's come in and he's had no academy upbringing. He's come in, he's signed, and they give him a scholarship. He's come in and like he's hit the ground running, and he's flew. And it just shows you that he hasn't had academy bringing, but he's turned out to be one of the best prospects in the academy now. So he's only been in the building 6 months. And he's got like enthusiasm.
Has he got the raw materials? Is it something? Is he something different?
No, he's just like a centre midfield player. He just loves it. Like wants to be there. He's doing extras. He's just running into training. Like
this is the real good thing, and that's brilliant what you said about your coach and what you've just brought up. Because the reason, like I said to people about playground to premiership, what we called it, and I sometimes call it the race to the bottom, is I've said to a few parents to segment the journey. I mean, look, first and foremost, they're playing football to enjoy it, get involved, do what they're going to do. Anyone who has aspirations of their kid at 6 playing in the Prem needs to give a bit more re-evaluation. Yeah. But like you've just said as a key point, like the journey now for some is so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I've obviously done it with a couple of my older ones, but I got a bit bored watching it. Yeah. Like so much training and doing it. I'm thinking, well, are they getting a bit bored? Mm-hmm. Is like there's so many years of pressure, retain, release. Mm-hmm. Do you need to be hitting it where, like you've just said, the last 10k, the marathon's 16. Yeah. You've still got to get through your 2 years as scholar.
Yeah.
Most people don't make debuts to 18, 19.
Well, I think it's getting a bit later now, debuts.
Is it?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, you're in there now, so I'm going to just keep with that and then we'll talk. So that's a great point about the lad. So when you made Middlesbrough, because I don't want to get to it, because like youth team level, you got to the FA Youth Cup, didn't you? 2 years on the spin. Yeah. So just talk us through that. Was it the first year against United?
Well, we had a good... so obviously, there was in that team, there was first year team, there was Ross Turnbull, he played for Chelsea.
Yeah, I remember the name.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Andrew Davies played for Middlesbrough. He was like first team. He went on to play for Southampton and other teams. And then there was myself, Tony McMahon. Like there was loads of us who played. Chris Brunt. Yeah. So obviously we spent 15 years together at West Brom, and we grew up.
Are you same year or was one?
He's a year older.
He's a year older.
So yeah, we had FA Youth Cup's the ultimate, and it still is now. Like the lads are playing tonight at West Brom with East Stoke, so that's the biggest thing for a youth player. And if you win that, you've got the bragging rights for the rest of your life. So, so we got beat by Man United in the final, and then I could just remember after it, we had a lot of the lads who could still play the next year, and we just had this arrogance and confidence that we said, "Oh, we'll win that next year, win that." And we went on to do it, and we beat Villa. And
where was that played at?
Well, we played Walsall as well in one of the rounds. Because we beat Mick. Obviously, Mick.
Was Mick the manager?
Yeah, Mick's never let it down. So, and that sets you up, playing in stadiums and getting used to the pitches, big pitches and stuff like that, and playing at your home stadium, having a little bit of crowds. When we got to the final a couple of years, there was like 20,000 there. It was massive. And then the following year, when we won it, it was nearly a sellout. And then we were at Villa Park, and that was a big crowd again. So,
what was the score in the final? Can you remember?
The Villa one?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-0. 3-0 first one, scored 2.
You're very modest there.
Yeah.
Scored 2 in the FA Youth Cup final.
Yeah.
So, in terms of that, did you make your debut as a pro? Fast forward, had you made your debut by the time you were playing in the FA Youth Cup?
I think I did. Yeah. End of that season, I came on for the last 20 minutes at Portsmouth away. It was the last game of the season.
And Middlesbrough a Prem club at that point.
Yeah. And we got beat something like 5-1, and I came on that end of that game.
And what manager gave you your debut?
McLaren, yeah.
McLaren.
So I was 18 then. And that was my first game, Prem. It was the last game of the season. So, and then obviously went off for the off-season and then trained with a bit for the pre-season. And then I got in that following year through the European Cup. I made my debut in that and scored, and then went to Old Trafford and made my Premier League start.
So your first starts at Old Trafford?
Old Trafford, yeah. And then my mate played right back as well, my best mate in football. He played right back. He made his debut.
What, for Middlesbrough?
Yeah.
So, right, just for me to recollect that, what sort of names, what players, main players were in Middlesbrough squad when you were making your debut there?
So Mark Schwarzer, Southgate, Ekiog, Boateng, Hasselbank, Paducah.
Were you a centre mid
Rip
growing up? Did you have to come in on the right to get in, or?
So I was always a centre midfielder, and then in previous, I think I was about 12, 13. They played me centre half for a full season once, and I was like obviously not happy with it. But looking back now, it was just to work on the defensive side of my game.
Yeah.
When I played centre midfield, but I wasn't like physically developed to play centre mid at the start. So they moved me out because I was quick. They moved me out wide, and that's how I got my chance. Mendieta was in my spot, and he got injured. They had a lot of injuries, so I got in.
Player for Valencia, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I got my chance and just took it through that way.
And so that first season, is that the season that Middlesbrough made the UEFA final?
No.
Was it the following season?
Following season, yeah.
And in your first year, is that the season, the video, Ronaldo? Or was that a bit later down the line? No, that's Albion, isn't it? So in terms of Middlesbrough then, did you get in? Was it in and out?
Yeah,
in terms
it was
of
always
your
in
development?
and out, yeah. It was always in and out. You play like 4 or 5. Don't get me wrong, I still got like 20 odd appearances each season. I think when I left 3 or 4 seasons, I had 99 games under my belt for Middlesbrough.
And just in terms of, like, obviously, someone like McLaren, who's known as a coach and say developer, but did he really help you in that period?
Yeah, well, he had 3 brilliant coaches with him.
Who else was there with him?
Steve Harrison, Steve Round, who was he just left Arteta last season.
Yeah.
So, he was there, and just it wasn't much such like. They did one-on-one stuff all the time, but it was just like the sessions, and they're all quality and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say they went beyond to change my game, but they just through the training sessions and having the older pros there help you and tell what to do, because more or less you listen to them more than the coaches sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. And so was it the second season? How many years at Middlesbrough were you?
First team was about 3 or 4 seasons.
So what season was it, the UEFA final?
2005.
You start?
2005, 2006, yeah. And then I went to West Brom 2007.
So who did you play in the final?
Seville, yeah. We got beat like the Batters.
Okay, but to play at that level.
Yeah. To be fair, I was 19. I was never ready, to be fair.
No.
McLaren left Ray Parlour out, to be fair, and played me. So, but looking back, I wish I was, 24, 25 when I played in that, because I was physically ready and stuff like that. Yeah. And at 19, are you ready to play in a major competition like that?
Obviously, the coaches thought you were, weren't they?
Unless you're Jude Bellingham, like ready.
Or Lamau. So fast forward, obviously, where you are now. Obviously, just in terms of your career, before we talk about coaching. So, was it Tony Mowbray, you say?
Who signed me, yeah.
Signed you?
Yeah.
And obviously, you went on...
Yeah, I didn't want to leave Middlesbrough at all. Your home comforts and what you know, like that. And then when you get told that you leave and you're like, okay, I was a bit upset, you know what I mean? But it was the best thing I ever did. So, I can remember I drove down, tried to negotiate, and I was on. They tried to offer me less money, so I went back home 3 hours.
Did you have an agent?
Yeah.
So what age? Just interesting now, because obviously I know there's lots of kids at the clubs, whether it be I think 15 or 16. What age did you have an agent?
It was about 18. Yeah, I got one. Yeah. my eyes on agents, you don't really need one, to be fair. You can just freelance it yourself.
Okay. But you came down and negotiated it with your agent.
Yeah. Didn't work out, went back home. A couple of days later, I was back on and then signed.
And how many years did you have at Albion?
12 as a player.
Yeah, so I mean, look, obviously, say legendary status, played hundreds of games, had loads of great managers that hopefully had helped you through to where you were, your coaching journey.
We had about 10, 11 managers at the time. So,
which managers? Oh, we talk about coaching and developing people. Did you have specific people that you think really helped you on your journey?
Well, obviously my first step away from Middlesbrough and home comforts, you're a bit apprehensive, and then Tony Mowbray, he was, set me up really. He was all about attacking. I was attacking player, and he suited my game down to a T. Some of the lads used to call him, my daddy and all that. So, but yeah, he improved me a lot. I was gutted when he left. So he left when we got relegated. He's the only person I've seen us get relegated and get a standing ovation off the pitch, So that was a weird situation. But he went on to Celtic, and then I had a bad injury, like a heel injury, which couldn't. So when we got relegated, I missed a big chunk of that season. I just had an infection in my foot. Football sometimes is about timing, isn't it? Like, bad time. I was flying, my game was going up and up and up, and then that bump, the disappointment of being injured, and it's like one step forward, two steps back. And then I got back playing, and then Di Matteo. So we got promoted that year again, bounced back, and then we stayed in the Premier League for a while. Di Matteo got sacked, and then Roy Hodgson came in, Steve Clarke, Tony Pulis, Pepe Mel. So I had a good few, all different styles really. Roy Hodgson was very good, like very structured, and he improved. He taught me how to play centre midfield really, because I was more like attacking one, but he taught me how to sit in the middle of the park.
Yeah, exactly. If you talk modern day, you laugh, like people will say, well, I'm a 4, I'm an 8. Like I'm a bit older than you, but when I was, it was like you were a centre mid, you were up and down or whatever. But you're saying he sort of not changed your game, but give you a broader perspective on how to play it in terms of being able to sit and. Yeah,
I always thought I could do it, but when he taught me, I was like, oh God, yeah. They were right not to play me in the middle of the park because I couldn't. And he taught me how to do it. Yeah.
And in terms of like, obviously, one thing I want to check, go back to, so before I forget, because we speak about England youth and we never spoke. You played nearly 50 games for Scotland, so just to explain, where did that change and when did that happen?
So it's a little funny story, really. My auntie lived in Mallorca. And she's quite posh, so they had like some big hitters around there, like Howard Wilkinson and some of the people that owned hotels and stuff like that. So they were having a barbecue, and then Alex McLeish came, who was the current Scotland manager at the time, and my auntie she's a bit brass, so she just straight over and she said, "Oh, do you know James can play for Scotland?" And he was like, "All right." Give me the next couple of days, he's rang me up and said, "Do you want to come play for Scotland?" But I'd always joke with me, like my granddad and my dad and stuff, like, going to play for Scotland, going to play for Scotland. Do you know, like that tempting fate, like in your head, like, you're going to play for Scotland, you're going to play for Scotland.
It must be difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously you're part of the Scotland coaching setup.
Yeah, it was.
And obviously, looking at your starting, it'd be questionable if you could have played for England, but obviously you made the decision young.
I spoke to a few coaches and that who I trusted, and they were like, "Oh, just go and do it." And again, it was daunting at first, but like an Englishman going into a Scotland changing room, the lads were great, and I ended up playing against teams like Germany, Brazil, Spain.
I was going to say we talk about the people you've played with there in the Prem, but talk about people you play against. But in terms of your international career, you played against.
It was brilliant. go
Well,
and
give us a
train
name
off.
drop. What type of players have you played against on the international?
Neymar, all the Spain squad, that Spain team, so like Iniesta,
You had to
Xavi.
play centre mid in there.
Yeah. Played against them a couple of times. Germany team who, were firing then.
You got like your
England.
Schweinsteigers and Cruz and
And then we had a couple of games against England at the time as well. So it was the first game back at Wembley, England-Scotland game. So, when they had that break of not playing each other, it was in trouble.
Okay, so just one before I forget, just going a bit off piece, because you've absolute levels of players, but who was your most difficult one?
Yeah, Iniesta and Xavi, they were, I can remember, say the distance, every time I got to there, they would just pass the ball. And I always go back, and then they'd come back to and pass the ball again. And, you couldn't get a yard of them, so they give me a tough night. But obviously, when you play against Gerrard and stuff like that, Rooney.
I was going to say, who's your toughest opponent in the Prem?
They all have different, Gerrard will run all over the top of you, power and pace. Lampard would just, again, run on the back of you and ping one in the top corner. Rooney was skill and power, and then you had Ronaldo as well, was, again, pace, power. Scholes, who could, outwork you with the ball, trickeries, play around the corners, ping the 60-yard diags, and Danny Murphy was up there. He gave me.
Do you know what? It's interesting you say Danny Murphy. Obviously, I didn't play a lot of games, but at Warsaw, and not as interesting as your it might be the Scotland story. When I got in at Warsaw, I got selected to play for Wales 18s because my dad said that my granddad was born in Wales, so I got picked. It's interesting when you say daunting, going into a new dressing room, because Craig Bellamy was quite clear that the English lads who he perceived as not being Welsh, he didn't want us in there.
Yeah.
It transpired then after playing 5 games, I wasn't Welsh, so I got kicked out. But on my 3rd game playing for Warsaw, I'll never forget it, played Crewe away, and I've always said this to people, I'd started really well, and I played against, I think his name was Gareth Wally, who was the captain, but then there was Robbie Savage and Danny Murphy. And that was my first experience of, oh, wow, I'm not saying I'm not as good as I think I am, but I just couldn't get close to Danny Murphy. Yeah. He was so intelligent, and wherever I went, he moved the ball. And I think, look, obviously, much higher levels, like what you've spoke about, but I never forget at Shrewsbury playing against, really naively, Man U won the treble, and the next year Man U, as something with the league, did it where they said that they'd played 2 League Two teams to raise money for League Two teams, and it drew out a hat. They were playing York on the Saturday and Shrewsbury on the Sunday. I'd have been with Luke, and we all trained on the Saturday, and the squad come out, and the squad that played York was the whole team that started against Bayern Munich, but including Keenan Scholes, who was banned. So we were gutted. We were like, all the top lads have played against York. So it come out the next day, I was playing against Fortune and Butt. And I remember saying to my mate, I don't think Nicky Butt's all that. I think, and I played against him. And I was, he literally, obviously he's not Xavi or Iniesta, but he just showed me Nicky Butt's Nicky Butt. Do you know what I mean? He plays that level.
Yeah, I always thought that. Obviously, I was not a bad player, but on me there was another level, and then there's another level, and then there's another level on top of that. And it is, you've got to dedicate yourself to get to that level.
Do you think in terms of dedication then and talking, obviously we talk about kids, so you've had a brilliant career. I just said, funny enough, didn't realise that was your last game. So what was it, 400 games you played? Yeah. How many games did you play for Albion? 300?
330 or 300, yeah.
Loads in the Prem. I didn't realise that playoff game, so you scoring the penalty shootout. Was that your final game? And then did you go straight into your coaching pathway? Because obviously now you're a coach at West Brom.
Yeah, so I had a couple of months off, and went on holidays and played golf and that. And then the club just offered me to come in and try it out, because I never knew what I wanted to do. So I just sort of fell into coaching, give it a go. And I did the 21s for about a couple of months, and then the manager got sacked, and then Sam Allardyce came in and wanted someone who knew the club and all that, and be a club man, so I went with him. So 2 months of coaching, and I've been thrown into the deep end with the first team. So.
And how did you find that?
Yeah, God, putting out. I mean, the first time you start coaching, you're like, wow, this is, speaking. Even getting the cones right, your sizes right, you're putting the bibs out, making sure you got the balls. Like, how many balls are you going to need? Just all that coaching. And then you do your A license, your B license. I mean, them two nearly put me off, them A and the B. With all the work you've got to do for it. So yeah, at the start of it, coaching, I've sort of like hated it a bit really because I was uncomfortable. Okay. And then you sort of like, once you get through that uncomfortable period, and when you learn how to get your voice and you speak and how to deal with people and all stuff like that, you start to enjoy it a bit more.
So what age group are you coaching now at West Brom?
So I'm with the 21s now, yeah.
And how do you see, because obviously you've got so much value to give back and experience in terms of the lads that you coach. And obviously the thing I love about people, I think coaches can come from all different backgrounds, my opinion. I don't think you've had to have played the game, but I think there's obviously clear value. Yeah. I think they're saying, like in Holland, they like to have a certain amount of coaches around who've been on the grass. And I do agree with that. Obviously, in terms of yourself understanding Albion as a club, and then also in terms of, look at what we've just spoke about in this short period of time, all that experience, value that you can give in terms of, I don't know, you might have a young lad going into the team. How's he dealing with nerves? What's his preparation like? Yeah. Does he show too much respect? Yeah.
Or on the other hand, you just give him a bit of responsibility and say, go on over.
So you're enjoying that with the young lads?
Yeah, I do really enjoy it to see them help them develop and get better, and even like little bits when you work with them individually and they do it in the game and it comes off and you get your little buzz through that. But the one thing I say, you're never going to get the highs of playing, matches and that. So, a replicate of, playing on the Saturday and stuff like that.
In terms of the play, you're not going to replicate it as a coach.
Never, yeah.
I mean,
unless you're the manager and you're going to win things and all that. But I don't want to be a manager at this moment in time.
Why is that?
It's too stressful. I've just obviously worked on the other side and I see what it is, and
I think obviously you know more people than me, but I know a few people who've been in management and come out, and it's such an all-encompassing role.
Especially with social media and stuff like that now. You just you imagine having 30,000 people shouting at you, and then you leave that and you go home and you've got another 100,000 slagging you online.
I don't think, like you say, I mean, I suppose good managers, can they shut off from it, or does it have to be?
It's 24/7, isn't it? Like, even when I've, been helping out when a manager's been, doing the caretaker role and all that, and you're lying in bed sometimes, you think, no, if they do that, can he play? No, you're like, God, I need to switch off from this. It's football.
Well, we have some parents who switch off about the same doing this, so keep it with the youth now. You see, Max, this is grassroots.
Yeah.
If I'm talking now, let's say Max is the next Jude Bellingham, but a lot of kids, they're doing 4 or 5 sessions a week. They're doing one-to-ones. Parents are doing extra things. They've got an Instagram page at 8. Yeah. For someone who's here, who's done that full journey, what's your advice? Because I do feel like
so
it's started so much younger.
If Max was 8 now, I wouldn't have him anywhere near academy at this time now. I would.
Even if he was good enough?
Yeah. I'd just let him enjoy playing with his mates.
So is
there in school, just being a kid, So
is there a question that obviously you'd find an appropriate challenge for him in his football? So he'd play for the best team.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best team. If he's just playing with his mates, really enjoying it.
What age would you say?
You talked about the stress of release and return and all that. They go through if they're at 8 or that to 16 and having that. Why can't they just do that from, say, if it's even 12, you know what I mean?
Do you know what's quite interesting you say that? Because obviously you know my lads, is when Riley got released from Villa at 12, I pulled Jude out of Walsall at 8. So Jude wasn't like, say, a you as a kid, or maybe even me at 8. He was always there, but he wasn't top. But he was, and I always questioned it and thought, Riley's got a separate journey to Jude, but will Jude ever get the chance to play academy football?
Yeah.
And he did. Brodie heard of someone who I would say is at least equal ability, but signed for Wolves today, and I've rejected Brodie going into a few places at certain times. But I do think, like you've said, that the kids have to enjoy it. And the thing I'm definitely going to take is the skip and the slouch, if I can call it that. Like, some kids bounce on, not just because of Ace, whether it be grassroots, there's not that pressure to it, is there?
Yeah.
Where, like you've said, in the world of VO now, in the world of like reviews, in the world of 4 sessions a week, in the world of a 1-to-1, it becomes so much so young, doesn't it?
Yeah. But on the other hand, it does work for some players.
Well, that's the other thing. So if I'm right, that everyone who started, what was the last final for England? Was it the Euros that they made the final? Every player who started in that game were in, not a Cat 1, but were in the academy at 8.
Really? I didn't
Everyone
know
who started the final.
I didn't know that.
So not to like go against the grain.
Yeah.
I think Calvin
But
Phillips.
I think it's just personal
Yeah,
preference,
no, I
and
get
obviously
it.
I have the experience of knowing what academies like and stuff like that. And the biggest thing as well is for the parents, like, they're like 3 times a week, weekends, and they play all over the country, so it's a big commitment for the parents, like driving them all the way and travelling down to London and watching play, come back, training, come back, take them, taxis.
So I ask you then, if Max was you, what age would he go?
I think probably like senior, like ready, like just going into senior school, around about there, yeah. Because again, as well, you look at it thinking he's missing out on so much coaching. Is it elite coaching they're getting? Are they missing out on that? But I see some lads now who've been in the system and they're in our team and they still can't do A to B sometimes. You're thinking, well, what have they been doing from 9, 10, all the way up to 16 if they can't still do A to B? Surely if they do that, they can, when they're coming towards, they still can do A to B. So the technique of just passing, turning, and receiving. But
Yeah, and what's interesting now, it's interesting from getting all different perspectives, because Mick had an opinion to me. Like, obviously I didn't meet Mick until I was like a first year pro, and he come in to run the youth team, but he helped run the reserves. And he said to me that the standard now, like, technically kids are better.
yeah.
They're better than they were. What I said to him before is, like you've said about that method of extra practice or tuition, by the time Jude went into Walsall at 13, I would still say that he hadn't been in the academy till 13. I know Walsall's Cat 3, but he was top 3 to 5 technically.
Yeah.
I'm not a biased dad, he was.
But
so he hadn't been in the academy.
Yeah.
So
if we go back to when we were growing up, we would play on the street
okay.
and do, say, one-on-ones or Wally, or, you know what I mean, just ping it off the wall or keep it up, stuff like that. So is that technique better than doing technique like
Manufactured
technique, looking through, passing through like mannequins and all
So
that.
how do we, which is really interesting, so Nathan Cantrell, who come here from Forest, I mean, I've seen, is it Girona, the Spanish club now, they did some, I don't think it was just to be quirky and get likes, like they agreed it with the parents and they pulled the goals out and played street football. Yeah. Now, obviously, as what you've just said there, like Cooper doesn't go out on the street and play football the way I did. I don't presume Max does.
No one does.
So I read a stat once that 11%, totally get, but 11% of the Prem came from inner city.
Yeah.
So that's sort of concrete football. Yeah. So how do we recreate it?
I think that's why some kids do 4 sessions a week, because they don't play outside of football, like in the street or anything like that.
So do we need then to keep those sessions? Because obviously, like, you've gone through your badges and like you said, not say it nearly put you off. I remember at Villa watching a session when I first started, I probably wanted sessions to look perfect, probably for me to be like, oh, I'm a good coach.
Yeah.
And two, I probably sometimes coach for the parents, not the kids.
Yeah.
Where I remember one of the guys, an experienced coach at Villa, it looked a real mess, and he went, yeah, the kids will learn all right in this. He more or less said, I'm not coaching for you.
Yeah.
Let them work it out. But do you think, because the world has changed, so would you say, like, in terms of the way we did that, I mean, I definitely did like street football. Would it be that if kids are going to do 4 hours, try and make it a little bit more unstructured? Because I always said to people, however you did your turns, I used to sort of get my body in and check, but I don't think anyone taught me how to do that.
You just
I think
self-taught,
I did it as a younger kid, big lads coming in.
Yes.
How do I work the ball?
Yeah.
So do you think if kids are going to do so much, it's got to be less structured?
Yeah, I agree. And just playing off the cuff and then making decisions themselves, and you might, and then they might do something, or you might see it's wrong, and just guide them a little bit. Oh, well done on this. What about if you do this? And that might counteract of why you didn't work out and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a big believer in just letting the kids play and working it out for themselves. But
do you see yourself coaching younger down, or do you like it at the level? Yeah. How do you find it when you're coming out matches?
The matches. First couple of sessions, I was like, oh God, they don't. Some of them are like, 2 of them are over there, bloody fighting. I can remember, I brought loads of chocolates, and the first session I did, and I said, right, these are who are the best listeners. Yeah. And the best listeners are going to get these sweets. And they're all it worked, and then after that, some of them like, oh, I didn't get.
See, at least we know now for any of the coaches,
it's
all the grassroots coaches. We've got a West Brom Premier League legend, a licensed coach, and his way was bring loads of chocolate in your pocket.
I don't know how people do school teaching and stuff like that.
Do you know what? But I always say that, and it's really interesting because a lot of people, I'm not saying parents would be, generally, I always say that coaches at grassroots level, there wouldn't be the game if it wasn't there. And look, people could always do a bit more, but most people, they're not coaches, they're willing volunteers, and they're there to give the kids an opportunity to play football.
Yeah. I'm like, they're getting up on a Sunday morning, they're taking the team, they're taking training. Even the referees, they're turning up, they're making the game happen. The staff who are working at the games and stuff like that, they are football for me. Do you know what I mean? Even like yourself, what you put on here, do you know what I mean? We never had stuff like that when we were growing up.
Look, I mean, in terms of, obviously, we did the podcast. I mean, I started it when obviously Riley got released, and I'd done 3 years at grassroots, and I just felt like there was probably a need. I wanted to create, not in a crude way, something that was maybe a little bit more than volunteer-led, and gave kids a little bit more. And organically, when we started, it wasn't to ever have grassroots teams. It was for kids to come from all different teams and have a session, because a lot of kids' coaches are dads. So like you're saying, dads are either, sometimes not in a bad way at grassroots, some of the coaches are there because their kid's a stronger player and they want to push them through. Or sometimes it's like, well, I'm not saying my child wouldn't have a team unless I did it. But what I wanted to do is allow kids to come and have a session, maybe a little bit more, and then it organically developed to what we do now. And I think, like you say, what I like and what you've spoke about is I've always felt like environment's key. So I feel if you're in around the right people and environments are good, then you can have the opportunity to develop. It's like even stuff like tonight, we'll have kids that will finish a session, but something's happening, so I can put them into another one. There's enough going on here that we could have it like where teams can play against each other. You see it on a Friday night. I don't overstructure it with them, but I want them to have little sessions, get the games going, get their love of it. And that's obviously the way the format, I don't know if you know, the format's going to go even more small-sided from 2026. So when they come in at under 7s, it's 4v4. and then it goes. So actually,
Good idea, yeah.
a few people don't like that. So to ask you, from 2026, it's going to be 4v4. I presume no goalkeepers at 4v4 for under 7s and 8s, 9 10s 5v5, 11 and 12s will be 7v7, 11 and 12 7v7, 9v9 all the way to 15. So you wouldn't play an 11-a-side game until you're 15.
Yeah.
Is that too late? Taking the point that someone can make it a debut at 16.
Yeah. But on the other flip side of it, when they're younger, because sometimes I see Max play matches in training, and he'll touch the ball like say 4 times, where if you're playing like small, and how many touches they're getting, or if they do a drill, you're getting 100 touches rather than 3. So if they're 4v4 at that young age, they're going to get more touches with the ball and develop like that way.
But
at 15, if you haven't played 11-a-side, you could make your debut.
That's the one thing for me. I think that.
But obviously, that's only grassroots, isn't it?
Well, it's an FA initiative, so I don't know if it's going into academy level.
I don't think it'll go that.
I think people have said to me, and I think, look, we've got to embrace change, because when I was 7 and I got in under 10s, we played 11v11. It was just we were chasing one ball. So
Yeah.
the good players would have had the ball. The other people wouldn't have touched it. Now, even if you do 3v3, 4v4, like you've just said, decision making, contact time, all the different elements can only benefit you. Maybe they'll look at it as a thing. I think it's already going to go into Germany, and it'll be a transition maybe sooner as they get older. But like you've said, more contact time, more decision making on the ball for a young child can only benefit them.
Yeah. I wonder what size pitches and all that they're playing.
Well, I mean, that's more, I think, for the FA side of things, because say you're going 4v4, you're going to need more pitches. There's talk about it being self-refed between coaches, which in the best will in the world I don't think would work. I think people would probably rather pay a bit more subs and get a ref on there. But it'll be interesting.
That would cause trouble, that, wouldn't it?
Be interesting to how it would change. So in terms of your future now as a coach, Mars, at the age range you're at, you're happy? Where do you see it going for you?
So obviously I was at the first team before, but I wasn't really coaching and that, so that's why I went back down to the 21s. I wanted to have more time on the grass coaching and stuff like that, which has helped. And just see what happens in the future, because I want to, it's better when you know someone going in who's a manager, who you know and have that connection with, and you can be yourself, really, not that where you've got to build that trust and all that. In football, I just don't want that.
So you're helping your mate Brunty at the minute then?
Yeah, we were the first team to them, did the sessions out, so it was good. I enjoyed it, actually. It got me a little bug back for it.
Perfect. So in terms of like what we always do, and I want to do that now, and obviously yours, I don't know if I'll give you enough time to think about it, but in terms of any of our guests, we always ask them to pick their best 5-0 team. So it's up to you. You haven't got to definitely have a keeper, but
my memory's bad as it is, but definitely Ben Foster, number 1. But I did play with some Mark Schwarzer, Craig Gordon, McGregor were good goalkeepers, but Ben Foster was a special goalkeeper. I think if he tried a bit harder, he could have played for a big boy team.
Didn't you play for Man U for him?
He played for a little bit, yeah. But he says himself he wasn't ready. But when he was at us, he was ready.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he was quality. He made some top saves. Pick me a formation. What do you do? 1-2-1. What do you?
Got
to have 2 at the back, I think.
Have
you? Tough one, really, because you've got Southgate and players like that. I really loved Johnny Evans as a footballer. He was a very good footballer as a centre-back. Could read the game, quick, both feet. So I'd probably pick him, even like I picked him over the likes of Woodgate and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'll go Johnny Evans. Midfielders, well, I'll go striker, Mark Viduka.
Right,
He'd be
okay.
up there. He was like a big 6'4" man, but could
I remember him more at Leeds, I think.
but he could dance on the ball
Okay.
like a number 10. So I need a midfielder. I think I'd have Darren Fletcher in for that. Not for like ability-wise, but just the whole package of like leader, like type of guy. He could play, don't get me wrong, but
Okay.
but just I feel like he would have like he's got like a big impact like on the team and stuff like that. I'd have Chris Brunt as well in the team. Wonderful left foot.
Is that good?
Yeah. All left footers are better than right footers, aren't they? They can swank it. So I need one more, don't I?
We're going 6. I think you've picked 4. You got to have one more.
Have I picked 6?
No, you've picked 5 now, haven't you?
Have I?
You got Foster, Evans, Fletcher, Brunt, and Viduka.
Yeah.
You can have a 6 aside. You
I'll
got
have
more?
one sub.
Yeah, go on.
I'll have
Who-
Odemwingie sub. Peter Odemwingie.
Is he going to be a pro golfer?
A bad one if he is.
I was told he was going to be a pro golfer.
The level's too hard. I think what it was, he passed these to teach.
Right,
professional,
okay.
So that's what it is. Yeah, he did a course. And
Okay, so there's been quite a few notable people who've missed out on that team.
yeah, you put me on the spot, so
No,
my
fair
memory's
play.
not the best.
Well, look, Muzz, give us a bit of insight into obviously your career, sort of advice for parents and what you've given. I mean, like you said, from your Middlesbrough coach to seeing what you do now at
Yeah.
West Brom, that little element of obviously the young lad who's come in late.
Yeah.
When you think you'd advise kids to maybe start that journey with it being so long, I think you give some really valuable insight. Obviously, for any West Brom fans who connecting will have interest in some of the things
I
you've
think
had to say.
first of all, the journey, it's a massive roller coaster if you're going to be on it. You know, and take little steps. You know, I used to work on it used to be like the ladder. Do you know what I mean? And have little set targets of where I want to get to, and have that drive to I've done that. Next thing, work hard to get onto that.
Was that just from yourself individually?
Yeah, just self. Yeah. Just the coach said it once, and it just stuck with my head. Like being where you're at on the ladder, and little steps. You got to do this. You got to get there. You got to do that. And then it just stuck with me, and did that. Yeah, and one advice, I probably didn't. As bad as it sounds, I probably didn't work on the game as hard as I should have. Do you know? I mean, we've got a player now called Tom Fellows, and every day he's working on his game, like just little things, like little small details, what you wouldn't think of just when the ball's coming, he's getting under pressure receiving it, and where he's taking it, or if the defender does this, I'll do this, and so every day he's on it, his game, and I'm thinking, I never did that.
Do you think? Sorry, this is great. Do you think you did when I spoke to Stephen Cook? Because you're really talented by the sound of it.
yeah.
Do you think that's a bit of it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Tom Fellows is not talented. What I'm saying is,
Yeah, I think I went the opposite way. When I got a bit in my mid-20s, late to 30, I was in the gym all the time thinking that would help me, and that, but no, should have been on the pitch doing stuff.
working on detail. more.
Yeah, like working on like crossing, left foot, or passing, or just stuff a little bit like that. Like, I wish I did that more, I'd say.
So a little bit of advice is obviously when you get to a certain level, really work on your detail.
Yeah, on the game, on your game, and not being in the gym all the time. Like, yeah, a little part of it, but you can you can get strong on the pitch.
Yeah.
Rather than going in the gym, you can get strong legs by just doing little shuttles and that way.
I think it's interesting seeing once, like, I think I read it, but I mean, like some players or people will chase, like, say, mirror muscles, but like seeing some of the Man City players didn't look like they were like gym bunnies, but on the pitch they were aggressive. They could cover the ground. They could do what they needed to do. Like you say, you got to find what works for you. And I think the ladder bit's really good because I think people try and jump too quick, don't they?
Yeah.
And then the fall can be bigger.
Trust the process, and and it's not easy. You're going to get bumps in the road. So it's like when you give the ball away. How do you react? Does it affect your whole game or does it not? And same as like little bumps, like you might get injured. How is it going to affect you? What type of person are you? Are you going to see it as a little chance to get better, get stronger, or are you going to just toss it off as a sort of thing? So it's all like balances and challenges of what you get in football, and it happens all the time. And then it might just go boom and a click, and you get your chance and you take it.
And do you find that obviously it's got to come from within, but it's having the right people around you as well, isn't it, to give you those sort of
push at the right times or ease off at the right times, take a backward step,
and have that bit of guidance.
Yeah, responsibility of yourself,
Because when you're talking a little bit older, there, like there was no. I'm not saying get to the realms of like you're talking a bit of psychology there, or there was no nutrition or different elements. But nowadays it's a lot more rounded, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got everything, but you've also got a lot more to deal with.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, Moz, you give some brilliant advice to everyone. Thanks for taking your time.
No, thank you.
I think Max has nearly finished training, so he'll be able to go. So, Moz, absolute pleasure, mate.
No, thank you. Cheers.